Hi, I'm Corolla. On Instagram, I'm at From Corolla. In this video, I'm going to do a currently inked swatch, writing and drawing with my fountain pens that I've inked up. I'll talk about the nibs and I'll talk about the inks that I have inside those fountain pens. And we'll do something like this. So if you want to join me, get out your currently inked fountain pens. Let's do some writing and drawing. So these are the fountain pens that I have inked up for November. What I'll do is I'll go through each fountain pen, the nib that I have in it, as well as the ink that I have it inked up with. And then we'll do a writing and drawing sample, and then I'll show you a close-up of that. So the first pen that I have inked up is a continuation pretty much from October. So I didn't clean this out yet. I didn't change up the ink in this one. This is the Esterbrook Quirky Leaf. It's from Back to the Lands collection. And the nib that I have in it is a broad journaler, and it was custom ground by Gina. The ink that I have in it is this Quirky Leaf from Esterbrook, and it's a very, very nice light green. It matches the pen really well. So they have 3 of these inks in the Back to the Land collection, and this is the one that matches this pen. So what I like to do with my currently inked fountain pens is I like to test them in terms of drawing as well as writing and what it feels like. And this one actually is a broad journaler, and it feels very, very comfortable to write and to draw with. So that's kind of fun to, it's kind of fun to have. So as you can see, this ink does really match the pen body very well. And it's a very, very nice shade of green. The nib wrote really smoothly, so I do really like it as an everyday sort of writer. The second pen is in Franklin-Christoph 46. It's an antique glass finish. And the nib that I have in it is a broad cursive italic. This nib is engraved with a surfboard design, and it's actually from Skogsy Pens, which came in one of the Skogsy pens that I have. And it was custom ground by Annabelle into a broad cursive italic. And the ink that I have in it actually is Pilot Iroshizuku Peki, which is a really, really nice blue. And the reason why is because I kind of wanted to just test this nib and do a comparison with my other cursive italics. This is a really nice nib to write with. Especially if you're writing at a slant, because it sort of gives you those cursive italic lines that look great. So it gives you these really nice cursive lines. So it's great, I think, for printing or for writing, depending on your preference. But yeah, I like the broad nibs, so that really shows off the ink. The third pen that I have inked up for November is a Franklin-Christoph 03. And the nib that I have in it is a medium cursive italic by Nagahara, and this is directly from Franklin-Christoph, and they grind it, or they have it ground for their nibs. And I have this inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki as well, because I did want to compare the two cursive italics. So as you can see, there's quite a difference between the broad cursive italic and the medium cursive italic, not just in terms of, the width, the line width, broad, medium, but also in how rounded the angles are. So, that's something to think about when you do want your nib custom ground or you're going for a cursive italic, is that you can get it rounded a bit so that your angles are either not as crisp and they're a little bit more rounded and more smooth or smoother, versus a line that's a little bit more crisp, and so you sort of get that feedback as you're writing. The fourth pen that I have inked up is the Pelikan M205, and it has a stainless steel nib. I got the fine. So this one is inked up with Pennonia and Amarillo Stationery. They did a collaboration, and it's called Azul Frida. So if you are interested in this ink, after you see how it looks on paper, feel free to check out Amarillo Stationery on Instagram and their website, and check out their shop. It's very, very cool. So that's a really, really pretty blue. It's sort of like has a little bit of purple showing through it, versus the Konpeki, which is like a very bright blue. This is the Esterbrook Estie called Aqua, and I have a double broad nib in it. So it's a very wet and juicy writer. It is inked with Sailor Manyo Haha. I love that name so much. While Haha is sort of like a faint, a muted blue, it is great to use this kind of ink in a very broad nib, because then you can see the properties of it more versus, you know, if you use it in a fine or extra fine nib, then you might not see the ink. It can look very pale. And so I like using paler or muted inks in a broader nib, because then you can actually see it when you're writing with it. So here you can see that it is a pretty pale blue, but it dries really nicely, and then it has a bit of shading, sort of this purple, this very light lavender purple to it. So I'll show you at the end, but it's very, very pretty. The next pen that I have is a pen that I had inked up in October. So this is the Benu Euphoria collaboration with Brad the Pen Addict for his 15th year anniversary. And the nib that I have with it is a fine scythe, custom ground by Kirk at Pennonia. The ink that I have inside here is Tom's Studio called Iris. That's a very, very pretty purple. So you can see that the scythe also has a sort of architect feel to it, but it's rounded so that, you know, you get your horizontal lines that are a little bit thinner than your vertical lines are a little bit thinner than your horizontal lines. So, but having it rounded makes it a little bit smoother to transition between those lines. The next pen that I have is the Sailor Pro Gear Slim, and this one is a collaboration with Cult Pens, and the nib that I have in it is a broad, and I have it inked up with Robert Oster and TheCoffeeMonsterzCo collaboration ink called Day to Night, and it's a very pretty mauve purple that matches the pen really well, actually. So you can see that's a very, very pretty purple or mauve. And that's with the Sailor Pro Gear Slim. And the next pen I have is a TWSBI Eco. This one's a purple glow. So in the dark it glows blue, even though it's sort of this lavender purple. And the ink that I have in it is very fun. It's a shimmer ink from Robert Oster, and it's called Violet Clouds. And this is actually a sample ink that I got. And so with a stub nib, I find that I see a lot more of the shimmer than I would with a finer nib. So this is with a 1.1 stub, and as you can sort of see, I had a little bit of trouble with the shimmer sort of being scratchy as it comes out of the nib a little bit, which, you know, is fine because as you write with it, it'll smoothen out and the shimmer will come through. But sometimes, you know, the shimmer can get backed up a little bit in the pen, and especially if you're not writing with it regularly. And it'll sort of sit in the feed, and then as it moves through the nib, you'll find that the shimmer can be a little bit scratchy, but I still like it. I love the color. It's very, very nice violet. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Corolla. On Instagram, I'm @FromCorolla. I'll see you in the next currently inked video, or just in the next video in general. Bye.